Christmas Bonbon, we're going to need paper, we're going to need a ruler, and we're going to need a pencil to start with. So let's get started and make our pattern. So I'm just going to mark out 1 inch apart on the paper down the bottom here. But at the top you want to come in 1/2 inch before you start, because we want to get a diagonal. So if you come in 1/2 inch and then start your inch from there. Okay, now we're going to draw our lines. I want to go from there to 1, 2, 3, the third one, so that we get a good diagonal for the paper. You can use any sort of paper. If you want to use a chocolate transfer sheet so you don't have to make a pattern, you can easily use a chocolate transfer sheet where you just palette the Deco Magic Original Gel on, leave it to dry, peel it off, and once it's flexible, make it the same way we're making this bonbon. Same technique, just different pattern. You just want to keep the same angle when you go across. So now we have our pattern. It's the pattern into a plastic document sleeve. Now I like to use the lightweight ones because they're textured. It makes it easier for the gel to stick to the plastic. You could also use acetate if you wanted to, or food grade cellophane. Entirely up to you. I just like working with the document sleeves. And there we have our pattern. I'm using a number 3 tube, and I'm also using Deco Original Magic Pearly White because I'm going to do the paper gold. So what we need to do now is to pipe the lines so that it can look like Christmas paper. Right, now that that's done, we're going to leave that to dry. You can either put it in the oven on a very low temperature, like 50 degrees, or you can put it in a dehydrator. I'm just going to leave it to dry on the bench. So now I've got a palette knife, cranked handle, and I have a piping bag full of gold Original Magic. and I'm going to pipe this over. This is dry. It's not hard dry, but it's dry that it's not getting tacky or anything to my fingers. All right, so we're going to pipe this over the top, covering, so we have to do less palleting. We're just going to smooth it out. Just want to get it in all the grooves. Now you don't have to worry if you don't get it perfectly flat, because Deco Original Magic self-settles, which means it will dry completely flat. So I want to make sure there's no holes, because any holes will expand as it dries, and then you'll get holes in your paper and in your bonbon. All right, now we're going to leave that to dry. Pick it up. And we'll have a square sheet of paper when it dries. We're now going to make the structure of the bonbon, and I'm using chocolate to do that. Now, because our Deco Magic wrapping paper is only an A4 sheet, I want the actual bonbon to be smaller because we need to have the ends. So I'm thinking around 5.5 inches, or 5.5, or maybe just 13 centimeters. So if we roughly get it in the middle, so if we go 7.5 this side and 7.5 this side, so that gives us our little endy bits that go on the bonbon. 7.5 here, 7.5 here. Oops. Okay, so we've marked out where we want the chocolate to go. I'm going to put this way so there's no texture, and I'm going to put a piece of paper here. This is just A4 paper, and a piece of paper here. So that way, even if we palette over the top, it is going to come out square. I'm just using compound chocolate. You can use curvature chocolate if you want to, but just remember, when using curvature chocolate, you need to temper it. Otherwise, it's not going to set properly. You might get a sugar bloom and a fat bloom through it, so then you don't get the nice crack sound when it breaks. All right, so with compound chocolate, all you need to do is melt it. So I'm pouring this on. We want this reasonably thick because this is the structure of our bonbon. So I'm just going to hold this piece of paper on this side. It doesn't matter if we go over the end, because we're going to lift that off the table anyway. And now do this side. All right, now the other thing I meant to do before was wrap this in Glad wrap so that the chocolate doesn't stick, and it also makes it food safe because it is just a piece of wood. So this is going to help hold our structure. So we've wrapped that in Glad wrap. We're then going to lift this up, just give it a few taps, get rid of any air bubbles, get our structure here, put it down and roll it over. And you want it to close like so. So as you can see, it's set to the touch, still not fully set. So at this stage, I'm going to release it from the table because it's stuck to the table. And because I've rolled it over, I want to slice it here so that the excess comes off. So just a straight line with a paring knife. Across. That can now just wrap over like that. I'm going to put it in a little tray. This is actually a spice rack from IKEA. I'm going to leave this to fully set before I take it off the dowel. So we need two ends. So I'm just going to cut these out. So the chocolate has set enough that I can cut it, but it's not set fully. I'm just going to make some spares just to be on the safe side. Nothing worse when you go to do something and something breaks and then you can't finish the job. As I said before, I'm doing two different sizes just to make sure it's going to fit. Okay, so there we have our circles. Another sheet of Glad bake. Going to flip it over so that we can leave it to dry. Like so. And we'll just leave that to dry. Our bonbon paper's dry, so just going to go around the edge with a paring knife to release it. And this is where you'll find if there's any thicker bits that aren't dry, in which case you'll need to leave it a little bit longer. See here, that's a little bit thicker and it's still quite wet, whereas here it comes off, releases from the plastic really easily. All right, I'm going to leave that a little bit longer to dry because I don't want to ruin it. Bonbon structure is now set. So I'm going to take it away from the acetate. Now it doesn't matter if the little bit breaks off at the bottom because then we'll have it in a perfectly straight line. Like so. Now it's just a matter of getting it off the plastic. Want to ease it off without it breaking. so, and then just slowly move your glad wrap around. You can twist it so it releases from your chocolate. And there you have a hollow round piece. Now it doesn't matter if this isn't, isn't nice and shiny, because it's going to be wrapped in our metallic paper anyway. I've just heated up the base of the fry pan so that I can melt the chocolate and stick the bases together. I've got my bases here ready to go, and this to me looks like the perfect size. So it's not perfectly straight, so we're going to put this here till it becomes perfectly straight, melt it, and then put the base on. Now we're going to fill it with lollies. I've got Freckles, mini marshmallows, Allen's frogs, and some white chocolate. We're just going to pop these in any which way. Hopefully they'll fit. So going through like that, so basically made like a little tunnel. That one's not going to fit. All right, I don't want to fill it anymore. So it's now full of lollies. And I can't tip that up because if I tip it up, all the lollies are going to fall out. So our pan is still nice and hot. Going to do the opposite this time. And melt it. And put the top on. So we have a cylinder. We have our chocolate cylinder filled with lollies. So this is the structure of our bonbon. And we're just going to leave that to set. As I said, around the sides first, to release it. Still a little bit wet there, but the rest of it seems pretty good. So what we're going to do now is just peel it off. So this is how our paper now looks. Nice and Christmassy. All right, now we need to do the ties at the end. So if we wrap the bonbon, we need to just do a tester to see how much is left, because we're going to need a little bit of ribbon at the end to tie our two ends together. So, like so. Oh, there'll be plenty left. All right, so we need to cut it. You can draw a little bit of a line here with the knife. So we know where to cut. Pretty amazing to believe that this is all edible, but it is. roughly even, so we've got some room either side to do our little tassely bits. And we just roll it up and it'll stick to the chocolate. With the seam, you can just press it down, and then we can squeeze this together. That side, squeeze it together this side. So with the leftover paper, I'm now going to make some ties for the end. I'm going to make them quite thin. I've now got 2 ties that are the same paper. And there we have our Christmas chocolate bonbon. So you could make them for everyone on the table on Christmas Day, and when they open it up, they get a surprise full of lollies. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.